Have you ever felt like life is slipping through your fingers, no matter how hard you try to hold on? Do you wonder why happiness seems so fleeting, while struggles feel never-ending? What if the answers to these questions have been whispered through ancient wisdom for thousands of years? Buddhism offers not just answers, but a way to transform your life from within, to find peace and clarity even in the chaos of everyday living. Let's consider a simple example. Imagine a cup filled to the brim with water. If you try to pour more into it, everything overflows. Now, think of your mind as that cup. With too many worries, desires, and distractions, how can you find space for clarity and peace? Buddhism teaches us how to empty that overflowing cup, allowing room for growth and wisdom. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, your place to uncover timeless lessons that will guide you toward a more meaningful and balanced life. Today, we begin a journey into the heart of Buddhism, exploring 10 life-changing lessons that can truly transform the way you see the world. These teachings are not just ancient philosophies, they are practical tools for modern life. Before we dive in, here's a quick reminder. Did you know that there are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of viewers actually subscribe? If you find value in what you're hearing, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. It's a small action for you, but a big step for us to keep sharing this wisdom with the world. Now, let's begin with an understanding of why Buddhism resonates so deeply with people across the globe. At its core, Buddhism is not about worshiping a deity or following rigid rules. Instead, it is a guide for understanding the human condition and finding a path to inner peace. The Buddha himself once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." This is the essence of Buddhist teachings, to look inward and transform the way we live by changing the way we think. The teachings of Buddhism are like a map, leading us away from suffering and toward liberation. They start with an acknowledgement of life's struggles and offer a way to transcend them. These teachings are practical, timeless, and deeply relevant to the challenges we face today. Stay with us as we uncover these powerful lessons, each offering insight into how we can live with greater awareness, compassion, and freedom. This journey isn't just about understanding Buddhism, it's about transforming your life, one step at a time. Lesson 1. The nature of suffering and the path to liberation. In this world, everyone experiences suffering. It is a part of life. Sometimes it feels like the weight of the world is on our shoulders, and no matter what we do, the pain never goes away. But here is the truth. Suffering is not something we should fear. It is something we can understand, accept, and ultimately overcome. This is the first lesson of Buddhism, and it is the key to true freedom. The Buddha, sitting under the Bodhi tree, faced the same struggles we do. He saw sickness, old age, and death all around him. He saw people struggling, unable to escape their pain, but instead of avoiding it or running away from it, he chose to face it. And in doing so, he discovered something that would change everything for humanity. The 4 Noble Truths. The first noble truth is that suffering is a part of life. It's inescapable. We can try to avoid it, but we can't escape it completely. Whether it's the loss of a loved one, the pain of illness, or the frustration of unmet desires, suffering is always present. It is not something we bring upon ourselves intentionally. It is simply part of being human. But here's the important part. The Buddha didn't teach us to accept suffering passively. He didn't say, just accept it and live with it. Instead, he showed us that suffering is not permanent. It doesn't have to define us. By understanding the cause of our suffering, we can begin to let go of it. This is where the second noble truth comes in. The cause of suffering is desire. Desire is like a flame that burns inside of us. It is the craving for something we don't have, or the fear of losing what we already possess. It's the hunger for more wealth, more fame, more pleasure. And as long as we chase these desires, we will never be free. The more we chase them, the stronger they become, and the more they control us. This is the cycle of suffering. But the Buddha didn't leave us in despair. He didn't just tell us that suffering is inevitable and desire is the root cause. He gave us a way out. The third noble truth is the realization that suffering can end. Liberation is possible. This is not some distant hope or dream. It is a very real, attainable state of being. It is the cessation of desire, the end of craving. When we stop chasing after things that do not truly satisfy us, we experience freedom. The fourth noble truth is the path that leads to the end of suffering, the Eightfold Path. This path is like a compass guiding us through the storms of life. It shows us how to live with wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The Eightfold Path is not a set of rigid rules. It is a practical guide for living in a way that brings peace, joy, and freedom. The first step on the Eightfold Path is right understanding. This means seeing the world as it truly is. It means understanding the Four Noble Truths and the nature of suffering. When we understand the truth of suffering, we stop blaming others or the world for our pain. We accept that suffering is a part of life, and in doing so, we become less attached to it. The second step is right intention. This means setting our hearts and minds on the right path. It is the intention to let go of harmful desires and cultivate loving kindness, compassion, and understanding. Right intention is about choosing to live a life that is guided by wisdom, not by fleeting desires. The third step is right speech. This means speaking with honesty, kindness, and compassion. Our words have the power to heal or to harm. By choosing our words carefully, we create harmony in our relationships and in our minds. The fourth step is right action. This means acting in ways that are ethical and in alignment with our values. It means choosing actions that do no harm, that help others, and that contribute to the well-being of all beings. Right action is about living with integrity and purpose. The fifth step is right livelihood. This means earning a living in a way that does not cause harm to others. It means choosing a career or profession that is ethical and contributes to the welfare of society. Right livelihood encourages us to think about the impact of our work on the world. The sixth step is right effort. This means putting forth the effort to cultivate good qualities and let go of harmful ones. It is the practice of consistently choosing what is good, noble, and true. Right effort is about being diligent in our pursuit of wisdom, compassion, and inner peace. The seventh step is right mindfulness. This means being fully present in each moment. It is the practice of paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and actions without judgment. Right mindfulness helps us see our habitual patterns and understand where they lead us. It is through mindfulness that we can begin to change our behavior and transform our lives. The eighth step is right concentration. This means focusing the mind in a way that leads to deep inner peace. It is the practice of meditation, where we cultivate a calm, clear, and concentrated mind. Right concentration allows us to see things as they truly are and to experience the deep joy and peace that comes from within. As we walk the Eightfold Path, we begin to experience a shift in our lives. We start to see the world in a new way. Instead of focusing on what we lack, we begin to appreciate what we have. Instead of clinging to desires that can never truly satisfy us, we let go and experience a deep sense of contentment. We realize that suffering is not something to fear or resist, but something to understand and overcome. This is the essence of the Buddhist teachings. Suffering is part of life, but it is not the end. It is a challenge, a teacher, and a gateway to freedom. By understanding the nature of suffering, we can break free from its hold and live with peace, joy, and wisdom. The Buddha did not teach us to ignore our suffering or to pretend it doesn't exist. He taught us to face it directly, to understand it, and to transform it. This is the first step on the path to liberation. By recognizing that suffering is a part of life, we begin to free ourselves from its grip. And as we walk the Eightfold Path, we find that the peace and freedom we seek are not somewhere out there, but right here, within us. So, what is the nature of suffering? It is not permanent. It is not something that defines us. It is simply a part of the human experience. But through understanding and practice, we can overcome it and find a path to liberation. This is the first lesson of Buddhism, and it is the foundation for all the teachings that follow. By embracing this truth, we begin to transform our lives in profound and life-changing ways. Lesson 2. The power of mindfulness in everyday life. Imagine waking up in the morning, the sun gently shining through the window, and the quiet hum of the world beginning outside. You have a busy day ahead, but how many of us truly pause to notice the simple beauty of this moment? Often, we rush from one task to another, our minds full of worries about what's next. But What if I told you that by simply paying attention to the present moment, you could transform your experience of life? This is the power of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully aware and present in whatever you are doing, without judgment. It's about noticing what is happening right now, whether you're walking, eating, or talking, and doing so with a calm and open mind. The beauty of mindfulness lies in its simplicity. It's not about emptying your mind or escaping reality. Rather, it's about being deeply aware of it, without distraction. The Buddha taught that suffering arises because we are not fully present. We live either in the past, filled with regrets, or in the future, consumed by worries. But neither the past nor the future can ever truly be touched. They are only in our minds. The present moment, however, is real and tangible. When we learn to focus on the here and now, we begin to live more fully, without the weight of unnecessary thoughts. Mindfulness helps us break the cycle of automatic responses. When you're mindful, you begin to notice the small things, the taste of your food, the sound of your footsteps, or the warmth of the sun on your skin. You begin to realize that each moment is a gift, not something to be rushed through or ignored. When you can be present in the simplest activities, life becomes more enjoyable. One of the most powerful tools in mindfulness is the breath. Breathing is something we do without thinking, yet it can be a gateway to stillness and peace. When you breathe deeply, you connect with the present moment, letting go of everything else. Take a moment now, wherever you are. Close your eyes for just a few seconds and take a slow, deep breath in, and slowly release it. Feel the air fill your lungs, and as you exhale, let go of all your tension. This simple act of breathing, done mindfully, can change your entire experience of life. But mindfulness doesn't only happen in quiet moments. It can be practiced throughout your day, even in the midst of busyness. Whether you are working, talking with others, or running errands, you can bring mindfulness into these activities. When you are listening to someone, really listen. When you are eating, savor each bite. When you are walking, feel your feet touching the ground. Mindfulness doesn't require you to stop everything you're doing. It simply asks you to be fully engaged with what you are doing. Mindfulness has a profound effect on our emotions. When we are mindful, we don't push away difficult feelings. Instead, we observe them with curiosity. When sadness or anger arises, mindfulness allows us to sit with those emotions without reacting to them. We notice them, accept them, and let them pass. Just like clouds in the sky, emotions come and go. By observing them without attachment, we begin to break free from their hold over us. Many of us live in a state of constant distraction, scrolling through our phones, jumping from one task to another, never fully focusing on any one thing. This constant fragmentation of our attention can lead to stress, anxiety, and even burnout. Mindfulness helps us reclaim our attention. By learning to focus on the present moment, we stop scattering our energy and start directing it towards what truly matters. The practice of mindfulness is also deeply connected to kindness and compassion. When we are present, we become more aware of the needs of others. We can listen more deeply, offer more help, and respond with greater empathy. Mindfulness opens the heart, allowing us to connect with others in a more genuine way. In a world that often feels disconnected, mindfulness helps us build bridges, not walls. One of the simplest ways to practice mindfulness is through meditation. Meditation gives us a safe space to train our minds, to sit quietly and observe our thoughts without judgment. At first, it might feel difficult. Our minds are filled with endless chatter, but with regular practice, meditation becomes easier, and we begin to experience moments of stillness. These moments are like tiny oases of peace in the desert of our busy lives. In Buddhism, meditation is not just a practice but a way of life. It teaches us to see the world with fresh eyes, to stop seeing everything through the lens of our habitual thoughts. Meditation helps us break free from the conditioning that limits us, and allows us to experience life as it truly is. Mindfulness also teaches us to embrace impermanence. Everything in life is constantly changing. Our emotions, our bodies, our circumstances. When we resist this truth, we suffer. But when we practice mindfulness, we begin to accept the flow of life. We learn to appreciate each moment as it is, knowing that it is fleeting. This awareness of impermanence helps us cultivate gratitude and live more fully. So, how do we bring mindfulness into our everyday lives? Start small. You don't need to change everything at once. Begin by setting aside a few minutes each day for mindful breathing or meditation. Notice the moments when you are rushing and take a breath to slow down. Bring mindfulness into your interactions with others. Give them your full attention. As you practice, you'll find that your life becomes calmer, more peaceful, and more joyful. In time, mindfulness will become a natural part of your life. You'll find yourself more aware of your thoughts, your feelings, and the world around you. You'll begin to live with intention, rather than letting life pass you by. This practice will help you find contentment, even in the midst of challenges, because you'll know how to remain centered in the present. The teachings of mindfulness are not just for those who sit in quiet meditation halls. They are for everyone. In the midst of your busy life, mindfulness offers a way to reconnect with what truly matters. It is a practice of awareness, of presence, and of peace. Through mindfulness, we can transform our daily experience, and in doing so, transform our lives. As you continue on your journey, remember that mindfulness is not a destination. It is a practice, a way of being. With each mindful breath, you are stepping closer to the life you desire, one moment at a time. The path to peace and happiness doesn't lie in distant goals or achievements. It lies in the present, in the simple act of paying attention to the here and now. And with mindfulness, you can begin to live that life today. Lesson 3. Embracing impermanence and letting go. Life is in constant motion, like a river flowing relentlessly, never pausing, never repeating. The river moves on, and so does time. One moment, we are young. The next, we are older. One day, we have everything. The next, we have lost something we thought we could never live without. This is the nature of life. Nothing stays the same. Everything changes. Everything is impermanent. This truth of impermanence is often unsettling, especially when we are attached to the things that make us feel secure. We hold on tightly to people, possessions, memories, even ideas, thinking that if we cling to them long enough, they will remain unchanged. But the Buddha teaches us that clinging only brings suffering. It is in letting go that we find true peace. Think about a tree shedding its leaves in the autumn. The leaves fall, and the tree does not weep or mourn. It simply lets go. This is the nature of life. Everything, even our strongest attachments, must be allowed to fall away. Holding on too tightly to what is temporary will only cause us to miss the beauty of what is unfolding in the present moment. To embrace impermanence is not to ignore the things that matter to us. It is not to stop loving or caring. It is simply to recognize that everything we love, everything we cherish, is in a state of change. When we stop expecting things to remain the same forever, we free ourselves from the pain of loss. A simple example: consider a flower. It blooms brightly for a short time, and then its petals begin to fade. If we try to stop the petals from falling, we will only cause ourselves pain. But if we accept that the flower's beauty is in its fleeting nature, we can appreciate it in its fullest form. We can savor the moment without clinging to it. In this way, impermanence becomes something to celebrate, not fear. When we accept impermanence, we also learn to appreciate the present moment. We stop living in the past, chasing what was, or in the future, worrying about what might be. Instead, we focus on now. This moment, right here, is all we have. By embracing impermanence, we shift our focus from external things to the internal peace that comes from accepting the flow of life. We begin to see that everything, our thoughts, our feelings, our circumstances, are in constant motion, and when we let go of our need to control or hold on to them, we find that we can move with the flow of life, rather than against it. The key is mindfulness. When we are mindful, we are fully present with what is happening right now. We notice the small changes, the subtle shifts, and we learn to accept them as part of the natural rhythm of life. By doing so, we cultivate a deep sense of peace that comes from knowing that nothing lasts forever. Not our joy, not our pain, not our success, not our failure. All of it is temporary. We also begin to see that impermanence is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It is through change that we grow. Without change, There would be no new beginnings, no fresh starts, no opportunities to learn and evolve. In every moment of change, there is the possibility of transformation. A good way to practice embracing impermanence is to reflect on the things in your life that you hold most dear. Do you hold on to them tightly, fearing their loss? What happens when you let go of your attachment to them? This doesn't mean abandoning them or neglecting them, but it means releasing the need for them to be permanent. When you can do this, you will begin to experience life with more freedom and less fear. Life, in its truest form, is a constant cycle of birth and death, of creation and destruction. This is not something to fear. It is something to honor. Each moment is an opportunity to start anew. Each ending is a chance for a new beginning. In Buddhism, the practice of meditation helps us to cultivate this awareness of impermanence. Through meditation, we learn to observe our thoughts, our feelings, and our sensations without clinging to them. We allow them to come and go, just like the passing clouds in the sky. This simple practice helps us to develop a profound understanding of the transient nature of all things. As we meditate, we become more in tune with the ebb and flow of life. We no longer resist change, but instead, we flow with it. We begin to see that every moment is a gift, and every experience, whether joyful or painful, is an opportunity to learn. The Buddhist teachings on impermanence invite us to live fully in the present moment, without clinging to the past or worrying about the future. They encourage us to appreciate the beauty of life as it is, in its ever-changing form. And in doing so, we come to realize that true happiness comes not from holding on, but from letting go. Letting go is not about giving up. It is about accepting the impermanence of life. It is about finding peace in the flow of life, trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. When we let go, we stop fighting against the current, and instead, we move with it. The Buddha taught that everything is interconnected, and that includes impermanence. All things arise, and all things pass away. This cycle is natural. It is the way of the world. When we resist this flow, we create suffering. But when we accept it, we find peace. When we learn to embrace impermanence, we begin to live with less fear. We understand that change is not something to fear, but something to welcome. It is in change that we find growth. It is in the letting go of the old that we make room for the new. To truly live with peace, we must learn to let go of our attachments to things, to people, and even to our own expectations. Only then can we experience life as it is, without the burden of unnecessary suffering. Let go, and let life unfold as it was meant to be. The path to true freedom is not found in holding on, but in letting go. When we stop clinging, we allow ourselves to flow with life. And in that flow, we find peace. Lesson 4, the middle way, balance in all things. Imagine a tightrope walker, high above the ground, balancing on a thin rope. Every step they take requires focus, precision, and balance. One wrong move, and they will fall. This image is similar to how we must approach life, walking a fine line between extremes. The middle way, as taught by the Buddha, is about finding balance in all aspects of life. It is a path that avoids both excess and deficiency, bringing us peace and harmony in every moment. In our daily lives, it's easy to swing between extremes. Sometimes we overindulge in things that feel good in the moment: food, entertainment, success, or pleasure. Other times, we might deny ourselves entirely, thinking we need to suffer or sacrifice in order to be virtuous. Both extremes, however, lead to discontentment. The middle way teaches us that balance, not excess or self-denial, is the key to true happiness. The Buddha lived his early life in luxury, shielded from the harsh realities of the world. He enjoyed all the pleasures of life: rich food, fine clothes, and beautiful surroundings. Yet, despite having everything he could desire, he still felt a deep sense of dissatisfaction. It was only when he left his royal life and entered a period of extreme asceticism, denying himself even basic comforts, that he realized the opposite extreme was equally unfulfilling. Neither indulgence nor deprivation could bring him peace. It was only when he found the balance between these two extremes, what he called the middle way, that he discovered true contentment. The middle way doesn't mean avoiding all enjoyment or pleasure. It simply means we enjoy what we have without becoming attached to it. It means we experience life fully, but without clinging to the moments, possessions, or feelings that arise. The key is to practice mindfulness and awareness, allowing us to engage with life without being swept away by it. Think about your own life. How often do you find yourself caught in extremes? Do you overwork, thinking that success or accomplishment will bring lasting happiness? Or do you retreat into isolation, thinking that happiness is found only in renouncing the world? Both paths can leave us feeling unfulfilled. The middle way, however, offers a path of peace. It allows us to live fully without becoming overwhelmed. The Buddha taught that the middle way applies to every aspect of our lives: our desires, our relationships, our work, and our time. In relationships, for example, the middle way teaches us to love and care for others without becoming overly attached or dependent on them. We can enjoy the company of loved ones, but we don't need to cling to them in fear of losing them. In work, the middle way teaches us to engage in our tasks wholeheartedly, but without attaching our worth to the results. We can do our best, but we don't need to exhaust ourselves chasing after success or approval. In terms of desires, the middle way teaches us to experience the world with awareness. When we feel the pull of desire, we don't need to suppress it or act on it impulsively. Instead, we can notice the desire, observe it, and let it pass without attachment. This is the essence of mindfulness, the ability to be present without becoming entangled in our wants and needs. The middle way also encourages us to find a balance in our spiritual practice. Too much intensity can lead to burnout, while too little effort can leave us stagnant. A balanced approach allows us to progress steadily on the path without becoming frustrated or disillusioned. Just as the tightrope walker needs to find a steady rhythm, we too must find our rhythm in life, where we can move forward with grace and ease. The concept of balance also extends to how we treat ourselves. Many people are harsh and critical toward themselves, pushing themselves to be perfect or to meet unrealistic expectations. The middle way teaches us to be gentle with ourselves, to acknowledge our flaws without judgment, and to practice self-compassion. At the same time, we must avoid the opposite extreme of self-indulgence, where we let ourselves off the hook without striving to grow. In Buddhism, the middle way is seen as the path to liberation. It is not just about avoiding extremes. It's about creating a life where we can be at peace with ourselves and the world around us. This doesn't mean that we will never face challenges, but it does mean that we will approach them with a balanced mind, ready to face difficulties without being overwhelmed by them. The practice of balance can be cultivated through mindfulness and meditation. As we sit in stillness, we learn to observe our thoughts, emotions, and desires without becoming attached to them. Through this practice, we develop the ability to live in the moment, to respond to life with clarity rather than react out of habit or impulse. The more we practice, the more we begin to live in alignment with the middle way. One of the greatest benefits of the middle way is its ability to bring inner peace. When we live in balance, we stop fighting against ourselves and the world. We stop resisting what is and start accepting life as it is. This acceptance doesn't mean we give up or become passive. It means we approach life with equanimity, ready to meet whatever comes with an open heart and a calm mind. This approach to life brings about a profound sense of freedom. We are no longer trapped by our desires, fears, or attachments. Instead, we move through life with ease, knowing that nothing lasts forever. When things are good, we enjoy them without clinging to them. When things are difficult, we face them without becoming overwhelmed. The middle way allows us to flow through life with the natural rhythm of the universe. In our busy modern world, it is easy to become caught up in the extremes. We chase after success, pleasure, and material wealth, often at the expense of our well-being. Alternatively, we may retreat into isolation, convinced that happiness lies only in renunciation. However, the middle way teaches us that true happiness lies in balance, not in excess, not in deprivation, but in living harmoniously with ourselves and the world around us. As we journey through life, the middle way offers us a roadmap for living with purpose, peace, and wisdom. It is a way of life that encourages us to be mindful, to find balance, and to let go of the need for control. In doing so, we create a life that is not only fulfilling but also aligned with the deeper truths of existence. Ultimately, the middle way is about finding harmony within ourselves. It's about seeing the world clearly, without the distortion of excessive attachment or aversion. By walking this path, we can experience the joy of living fully, without becoming ensnared by the ups and downs of life. This is the true freedom that Buddhism offers. Freedom from suffering, freedom from extremes, and freedom to live a life of peace and balance. Lesson 5. Compassion as the path to inner peace. In this world, there are moments when the mind feels restless, when we are caught in a storm of our own thoughts, emotions, and desires. We often seek peace, but it seems so distant, so hard to grasp. Yet, there is a simple path that leads to inner peace, a path that is always within our reach. This path is the path of compassion. What is compassion? It's not simply a feeling of pity or sympathy for others. True compassion is a deep, sincere wish for others to be free from suffering, and it starts with you. Yes, it starts with how you treat yourself. You cannot offer compassion to others if you do not offer it to yourself first. Think about this for a moment. How often do you show kindness to yourself? How often do you forgive yourself for your mistakes and weaknesses? To cultivate compassion, we must first learn to understand suffering. Suffering is part of life. It's natural, inevitable, and it touches everyone. But suffering doesn't have to control us. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we are attached to things, people, possessions, ideas, or even our own identities. When we attach ourselves to these things, we create suffering for ourselves and others. But when we learn to let go of attachment, when we can simply be present with life as it is, we begin to understand that suffering is temporary. Compassion is the antidote to this suffering. When we develop compassion, we begin to see suffering not as something to fear or avoid, but as something to understand. Instead of judging or resenting the suffering in the world, we can embrace it with an open heart, knowing that it is part of our shared human experience. Imagine this. When you see someone in pain, instead of turning away, you choose to open your heart. You may not have the ability to change their situation, but you can offer them your presence, your understanding, and your kindness. That's compassion. It doesn't require grand gestures. It's in the small, quiet acts of kindness that we make the most difference in the world. Buddhism teaches us to practice compassion in everything we do. It's not just about feeling sympathy for others when they are suffering, but about acting with kindness and understanding at all times. When we practice compassion, we begin to see the world differently. We stop focusing on ourselves and our own troubles. Instead, we open our hearts to the struggles and joys of others. But how do we cultivate compassion? It begins with mindfulness. When we are mindful of our thoughts, feelings, and actions, we can recognize the moments when we are closing ourselves off to others. We may find ourselves holding on to anger, resentment, or judgment. These are natural human reactions, but they create distance between ourselves and others. Compassion is the practice of letting go of these negative feelings and replacing them with understanding and love. One powerful way to practice compassion is through loving kindness meditation. In this meditation, we begin by sending love and kindness to ourselves, recognizing that we, too, are deserving of compassion. We then expand that love to others, first to those we care about, then to those we may not know as well, and even to those with whom we may have conflicts. With each person, we send them a wish for their happiness and freedom from suffering. As we do this, we train our hearts to be more open, more loving, and more compassionate. Another essential practice in Buddhism is the concept of bodhicitta, which means the awakened heart or mind. This is the mind that wishes to attain enlightenment not for personal gain, but to help all beings. Bodhicitta is the heart of compassion, and it is the foundation of the bodhisattva path, a path dedicated to helping others reach enlightenment. When we practice bodhicitta, we turn our attention away from selfish desires and toward the well-being of others. Compassion also helps us break free from the illusion of separation. Often, we think of ourselves as separate from others. We identify with our own experiences, our own struggles, and our own identities. But when we practice compassion, we begin to see that we are all interconnected. Your pain is my pain. Your joy is my joy. We are not isolated beings, but part of a vast, interconnected web of life. When we recognize this, we begin to understand that helping others is not just an act of kindness. It's an act of understanding our shared humanity. This is why compassion is so powerful. It's not just about being kind to others. It's about transforming the way we see the world. When we practice compassion, we soften our hearts and our minds. We stop seeing the world in terms of me and them, and we start seeing the world in terms of us. We understand that the happiness and suffering of others are intertwined with our own. This recognition changes how we live and how we interact with the world around us. In moments of difficulty, when we are faced with challenges or conflicts, compassion can be the guiding light that leads us through. It is the practice of seeing the humanity in others, of offering kindness instead of judgment, understanding instead of criticism. Compassion allows us to hold space for others, to listen with an open heart, and to act with gentleness and care. One of the most profound teachings of the Buddha is that compassion is the foundation of the path to enlightenment. It is through compassion that we transcend our own suffering and help others transcend theirs. By cultivating compassion, we move closer to the true nature of who we are, beings capable of deep love, understanding, and connection. When we embody compassion, we create a ripple effect. Just as a single pebble creates ripples in a pond, a single act of compassion can spread throughout the world, touching many lives. When we are compassionate, we inspire others to be compassionate. We create a community of care, understanding, and peace. The Buddha once said, "If you light a lamp for someone else, it will also brighten your path." This is the essence of compassion. By offering light to others, we illuminate our own way. Compassion is not just a gift we give to others, it is a gift we give to ourselves. It frees us from the chains of selfishness, anger, and fear. It opens our hearts to the world and fills our lives with peace. When you practice compassion, you begin to see the beauty in the world around you. You recognize that every being, every creature, is deserving of love and care. This recognition transforms you. It changes the way you move through the world. You no longer see people as obstacles or threats, but as fellow travelers on the path of life. You see yourself in them, and you see them in you. The path of compassion is the path of true freedom. It is a path that leads to a deep sense of peace, a peace that is not dependent on external circumstances but comes from within. When you practice compassion, you release the hold that fear, anger, and resentment have on you. You allow your heart to soften, and in that softness, you find true strength. Compassion is the path to healing. It heals not only the wounds of others, but also the wounds within ourselves. It is through compassion that we can begin to heal the world, one act of kindness at a time. The more we practice compassion, the more we awaken to the truth of our interconnectedness in the beauty of our shared existence. In Buddhism, compassion is not just a teaching, it is a way of life. It is the path to liberation, to enlightenment, and to peace. When you walk this path, you walk with an open heart, free from the weight of judgment, fear, and attachment. You walk with the understanding that true peace is found not in what we accumulate, but in what we give. Lesson 6, the law of karma and personal responsibility. Imagine, if you will, that life is like a garden. The seeds you plant today, whether they are small gestures of kindness or thoughts of anger, will grow into something tomorrow. Just as a seed grows into a tree, so do your actions and thoughts shape your future. This is the essence of karma, the law of cause and effect. It is not some distant, abstract idea, but a living force that connects every moment of your life, like a thread weaving your actions together into the fabric of your destiny. Many people mistakenly think of karma as a form of punishment or reward, as though it's something external, like a judge watching over us. But karma is not about judgment. It is a natural law, much like gravity. You cannot escape it, but it does not act out of malice. It simply responds to what you put into the world. It teaches us that every action has a consequence, not necessarily in a distant future, but often in the very next moment. For example, when you smile at someone, you often receive a smile back. That smile, small as it seems, is a manifestation of karma in its simplest form. It's not about getting something in return. It's about creating a ripple of positivity. On the other hand, if you speak harsh words to someone, it is like throwing a stone into a still pond. That stone will create ripples, and those ripples will come back to you in ways you may not always expect. Karma does not wait for the perfect moment to show its effects. It is immediate, much like the seed you plant in the soil. If you nurture it with care, it will grow strong and yield good fruits. If you neglect it or plant it in poor soil, it will struggle and yield poor results. Similarly, when you take responsibility for your actions, whether they are good or bad, you begin to understand the deep interconnectedness of life. Your actions shape your experiences, and your experiences shape who you become. But karma is not just about actions. It also applies to our words and thoughts. Every thought you have, every word you speak, carries energy. That energy can be nurturing or destructive. Have you ever noticed how a kind word can change someone's whole day? Or how a simple negative thought can drain your energy, even without speaking it aloud? This is karma at work, shaping your reality moment by moment, like a craftsman shaping clay. The Buddha taught that all beings are the result of their actions. If you act with kindness and compassion, that is what you will experience in return. If you act with anger or greed, you will attract more of that energy into your life. It is a circle, always flowing, always in motion. When you realize this, you begin to take ownership of your life. You stop blaming others or external circumstances for your pain and start looking within for the root causes of your suffering. This is the true power of karma. You might wonder, how can I control my karma? The answer lies in awareness. By becoming mindful of every thought, word, and action, you can begin to choose what you plant in the garden of your life. The moment you are aware of your thoughts, you are no longer a passive participant in the drama of your life. You are the actor, the director, and the audience all at once. This level of awareness is what allows you to break free from automatic reactions and start living with intention. Start by asking yourself, what am I planting today? What seeds am I sowing with my actions and thoughts? When you find yourself angry, stop for a moment and breathe. That anger is a seed that will grow if you do not choose to let it go. When you find yourself wishing harm on someone, remember that this is a seed you are planting, and it will sprout in ways that may surprise you. Instead, take a deep breath and plant a seed of understanding, compassion, or forgiveness instead. In Buddhism, we speak of the Four Noble Truths, which are deeply intertwined with karma. The first truth is that suffering exists. It is a part of life that we cannot avoid. The second truth is that suffering arises from attachment and desire. It is our craving for things to be different than they are that causes us to suffer. The third truth is that suffering can be ended by letting go of these attachments. And the fourth truth is the path to ending suffering, the Eightfold Path, which teaches us how to live in a way that leads to liberation from suffering. Karma is a direct expression of this path. When you live with right intention, right action, right speech, and right mindfulness, you begin to purify your karma. You stop planting seeds of destruction and start planting seeds of peace. You stop reacting to life in the same old way and begin to respond with wisdom and compassion. But how do you know if your karma is truly changing? The answer lies in your sense of peace. If your mind is calm and your heart is light, you can be sure that your actions and thoughts are aligned with good karma. If you feel heavy, burdened, or resentful, it may be time to reflect on the seeds you are planting. Are they seeds of love, or are they seeds of fear and anger? Karma is not just about the big actions in your life. It is also about the small, everyday moments. When you wake up in the morning, are you grateful for the new day? Or do you start the day with frustration, wishing it was over before it began? These small moments add up, creating the foundation for your life. If you begin each day with gratitude, each action you take throughout the day will be influenced by that energy. If you begin with frustration, that frustration will ripple out into everything you do. In this way, karma teaches us that we are responsible for the life we create. We are not at the mercy of some distant force or fate. We have the power to change the course of our lives by changing the way we think, speak, and act. We can begin right now. The choice is always ours. So, as you move through your day, remember that every thought, every word, and every action is a seed you are planting. What kind of garden do you want to grow? A garden of peace, love, and understanding? Or a garden of bitterness, anger, and regret? The choice is yours. And with that choice, you shape your future. Karma teaches us that our actions have consequences, but it also empowers us to make different choices. It reminds us that we are the creators of our own lives. Every time you choose kindness over anger, understanding over judgment, you are cultivating good karma. And with each good choice, you are moving closer to peace and happiness. Remember, karma is not about seeking rewards or avoiding punishment. It is about understanding that our actions create ripples in the world, and those ripples come back to us. When we live with awareness and intention, we begin to create a life that reflects the peace and wisdom we seek. And in doing so, we find liberation from the suffering that has been caused by our own past actions. The power of karma lies in its simplicity. It is not something complex or mystical, it is a law of nature. Just as the sun rises and sets without fail, so does karma work. It is only when we become aware of its effects that we can truly begin to shape our lives with wisdom. Through mindfulness, we take full responsibility for our actions, and in doing so, we create a future filled with peace, love, and understanding. So, let us choose wisely today. Let us plant seeds of kindness, compassion, and wisdom. Let us take responsibility for our actions, and through this, create a world of harmony and balance. The power is in our hands. The garden of our life is waiting. What will we plant today? Lesson 7. Overcoming cravings and desires. In the quiet space between our thoughts, we often find that one feeling keeps resurfacing: desire. It's not just for things, but for experiences, people, and even for emotions. I want this, I need that, if only I had more time or freedom. These cravings shape our daily lives in ways we often don't see. But what if we told you that true peace begins the moment we let go of these endless desires? Imagine a bird perched on a branch, its wings spread wide. It's free, yet it doesn't hold onto the branch. The moment it tries to grip it too tightly, it will lose its freedom. Just like that bird, we too must let go of our cravings to find true freedom. The moment we stop holding on to desires so tightly is the moment we truly begin to live. In Buddhism, the concept of craving, known as tanha, is considered one of the root causes of suffering. We crave for things to stay the same, for people to be who we want them to be, for situations to unfold in the exact way we envision. And when these desires go unfulfilled, we suffer. It's like being hungry but not knowing how to satisfy the hunger. We eat, but we're still hungry. We get what we want, but we're still left feeling empty. The Buddha teaches us that craving is the thirst that can never truly be quenched. The more we satisfy our desires, the more they grow. It's a cycle, a never-ending loop that keeps us trapped. To break free from this cycle, we must learn not to feed these cravings. This isn't about denying yourself or repressing your desires, but about seeing them clearly for what they are: a temporary urge that will pass if we allow it to. Take a moment and think about a desire you have right now. It might be something material, a new phone, a piece of clothing, or a house. It could be an experience you're craving, traveling to a new place, meeting a new person, or achieving a certain goal. Now, sit with that desire. Notice how it feels in your body. Does it tighten your chest? Does it make you feel restless? These sensations are reminders of the craving. But here's the truth. The more you chase after that feeling, the more elusive it becomes. When you let go, the craving loses its power over you. It's not easy, I know. Our society thrives on desire. We're taught to want more, do more, be more. But the Buddhist teachings tell us that this pursuit is what causes our pain. The more we desire, the more we find ourselves longing for something that is always just out of reach. And so we chase and we run, but we never catch up. Now, let me guide you through a simple practice that can help you loosen the grip of craving. Next time a strong desire arises, pause. Don't act immediately. Instead, take a deep breath and observe the feeling. What is it telling you? Is it a deep hunger for something external? Or is it a yearning for peace, connection, or love? Cravings often disguise themselves as deeper emotional needs. If you can identify what lies beneath the surface, you can begin to meet those needs in healthier ways. Another way to loosen the hold of desire is to practice contentment. Contentment isn't about being complacent. It's about appreciating what you have in the present moment without needing anything more. Think of a tree. It stands firm, roots deep in the earth, content with the weather, whether it rains or shines. It doesn't need to be any other tree. It doesn't wish for different circumstances. It simply exists as it is. When you begin to practice contentment, you'll find that many of your desires start to fade away. You'll realize that the things you thought you needed to feel happy or complete were never truly essential. The beauty of life is that everything we truly need is already here, in this moment, within ourselves. Overcoming cravings isn't about eradicating desires altogether. It's about understanding their impermanence. Just like the seasons change, so do our desires. The things we crave today may not even matter tomorrow. When we see this truth clearly, we become less attached to the objects of our cravings and more connected to the present moment. Let's take this a step further. Think about the cravings you have for emotional fulfillment. Maybe you crave recognition, validation, or approval from others. These desires often come from a deep-rooted sense of insecurity, a feeling that we are not enough as we are. But the truth is, we are already enough. The moment we stop seeking external validation and start to trust our own worth, cravings for approval begin to lose their grip. Buddhism teaches us that true happiness does not come from acquiring or attaining anything. It comes from the freedom of letting go. When you release your attachment to desires, you make space for inner peace. You stop chasing after things that will never truly satisfy you, and you start experiencing the joy of being content with who you are, just as you are. It's important to remember that this isn't a one-time effort. Overcoming cravings is an ongoing practice. Like a gardener tending to a garden, we must regularly weed out the desires that clutter our minds and hearts. The more we practice, the easier it becomes to live with a sense of ease and freedom. The craving for more will always try to rise up again, but you will learn to recognize it, let it pass, and return to your peaceful center. As you walk this path, be gentle with yourself. There's no need for perfection. Each time you catch yourself craving something, simply acknowledge it and let it go. With each release, you make more room for clarity, contentment, and joy. It's like uncluttering a space. You're making room for what truly matters. In time, you'll come to see that cravings are like clouds passing through the sky. They are temporary, and they always fade away. They may come again, but they too shall pass. When you stop clinging to them, they lose their power. And in that freedom, you'll find true peace. Remember, the key is not to fight against your desires, but to understand them, acknowledge them, and let them go. This is the wisdom that Buddhism offers. By practicing detachment, we free ourselves from the endless chase, and we open the door to lasting happiness. So take a deep breath. The next time a desire arises, simply let it pass by, and in that space, you will find the freedom that comes from within. Conclusion: embracing the life-changing wisdom of Buddhism. As we reach the end of this journey, you may find yourself asking, how can I take all this wisdom and make it a part of my life? It's a great question, and the answer is simple: through practice. Buddhism is not about memorizing teachings. It is about living them. The lessons we've discussed are not meant to be understood in your mind alone. They are meant to be felt, experienced, and embodied in your everyday life. Remember the first lesson: life is full of suffering. This is not meant to be a pessimistic statement, but a truth. Suffering exists in different forms: stress, fear, pain, and loss. But it is a universal experience. The beauty of Buddhism is that it does not ignore suffering. Instead, it shows us how to rise above it. By understanding the root causes of suffering, such as attachment, ignorance, and desire, we can begin to free ourselves from their grip. When you embrace the teachings of Buddhism, you realize that you are not powerless. You have the ability to change your life. This change begins with your mind. The Buddhist teachings guide us to transform our thoughts, attitudes, and behaviors. By cultivating mindfulness, practicing compassion, and understanding the impermanence of all things, we begin to see the world with fresh eyes. But how do we maintain this inner transformation in a world that can sometimes seem chaotic and unpredictable? It comes through continuous practice. Just like any skill, it takes time. It takes patience. It takes consistent effort. But every moment is an opportunity for you to practice mindfulness, to show kindness, and to let go of what no longer serves you. Buddhism encourages us to walk the path of the middle way, not too extreme, but balanced. This doesn't mean that we ignore the struggles of the world, but rather that we face them with a clear and calm mind. By embracing balance in all things, we learn how to navigate life's challenges with grace and poise. Compassion is another key lesson that stands at the heart of Buddhism. True compassion is not just about feeling sympathy for others. It is about being present with them in their suffering and offering help when needed. It's about seeing the world through another's eyes, understanding their pain, and responding with kindness. When we live with compassion, we create a world where everyone can thrive. Understanding karma, how our actions, words, and intentions create our reality, is another essential aspect of Buddhist wisdom. Every choice we make, no matter how small, has an impact. By choosing actions that are in alignment with wisdom and compassion, we create positive ripples that affect the world around us. It's not always easy to choose the right path, but with awareness and practice, we begin to align our actions with our highest values. Overcoming cravings and desires is a powerful practice in Buddhism. Desire itself is not the problem. It is our attachment to it that causes suffering. When we let go of the need for external validation or material possessions, we make room for true contentment. Contentment does not come from the outside world. It comes from within. By practicing gratitude and embracing simplicity, we discover that we already have everything we need to be at peace. Through self-reflection, we learn to understand the root causes of our suffering. This reflection helps us become more aware of our thoughts and behaviors. It's through this awareness that we begin to shift our mindset. When we stop blaming others or circumstances for our pain, we take responsibility for our own happiness. This is not an easy journey, but it is a transformative one. The practice of simplicity is not just about decluttering your physical space. It's about simplifying your thoughts and emotions. When we stop overcomplicating things, we can find peace in the present moment. Buddhism teaches us that the present moment is all we have. The past is gone, and the future is uncertain. But in the present, there is peace, there is clarity, and there is freedom. Enlightenment is the ultimate goal of Buddhism, but it is not a destination. It is a continuous journey. Every step you take on this path brings you closer to inner peace. Enlightenment does not mean perfection. It means awakening to the truth of your existence and living in harmony with it. It is the understanding that everything is interconnected and that true happiness comes from within. So, how do we apply these teachings in our everyday lives? The key is mindfulness. Whether you are washing dishes, talking to a friend, or dealing with a difficult situation, mindfulness allows you to stay present and aware. By bringing our full attention to the task at hand, we become more connected to our own experience and more attuned to the needs of others. Remember, Buddhism is not about escaping life. It is about living it fully. It teaches us to face challenges head-on, to find peace within ourselves, and to create a better world for others. The wisdom of Buddhism is like a light that illuminates the path ahead, showing us where to go and how to move forward. You may not become enlightened overnight, and that's okay. The journey is long, and it is filled with twists and turns. But every moment of awareness, every act of kindness, and every moment of letting go brings you one step closer to your true self. As we conclude this journey together, I want to remind you that the teachings of Buddhism are not just for monks or scholars. They are for everyone. Whether you are seeking peace, understanding, or simply a way to live more harmoniously, Buddhism offers timeless wisdom that can guide you. And as you continue on this path, remember that you are not alone. You are part of a global community of people who are striving for the same things: inner peace, freedom from suffering, and a life of purpose and joy. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope these lessons have resonated with you, and that you will carry them forward into your life. May you live with mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. May you find peace in every step you take. As we end, I encourage you to reflect on what you have learned. Take these teachings and apply them to your life. And if you found value in this video, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Woven. Your support helps us share these teachings with others and continue spreading wisdom throughout the world. Thank you for being a part of this journey. May you find peace, joy, and wisdom in every day of your life.